Today our topic is graphs of quadratic functions. And a quadratic function, if you recall from the last unit, is a nonlinear function in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Now the key part of this is a quadratic basically is an equation that has an x squared as its biggest power. So when we talk about quadratic equations, think of equations that have x squared in them. Now, the name of the graph of a quadratic function is called a parabola. And so a parabola is basically this u that can either go up or go down. We can say it opens up or opens down. And again, this is the graph of a quadratic function named a parabola. Now, what causes a parabola to open up or open down? Well, the number in front of x squared dictates this. If we have a leading coefficient that's positive for x squared, the parabola opens up. Otherwise, it opens down. So if we have something like 7x squared, we know our parabola opens up. If we have negative 1/2 x squared, then our parabola opens down. Simple as that. Now the vertex is the lowest or the highest point of any parabola. And so if I draw a parabola for you, this vertex right here, this point, is the highest or lowest point of a parabola. Now in this case, it's the lowest point of a parabola, and we call this a minimum. And so the minimum is either, or excuse me, the vertex is either a minimum or a maximum value. Now, I'm going to draw again. I'm going to get really good at drawing these parabolas. There's a magic line that divides a parabola in half, or makes it symmetrical. And this line is the axis of symmetry. Now, this line is an equation that's x equals the first part of the vertex. So if the vertex is 5, 2, then our axis of symmetry is going to be at x equals 5. More on that later. A parabola can go up and a parabola can go down. And so when we talk about a parabola increasing, that means its y values are getting bigger. And when we talk about a parabola decreasing, that means its y values are getting smaller. Now, the solutions to any quadratic function are any x values where the graph crosses the x-axis. The maximum number of solutions to a quadratic function is 2, because once again, a quadratic function is x squared, and this 2 represents the most number of solutions that this function can have. So with some of our terminology down, we're going to take a look at two graphs, graph A and graph B, and we'll look at graph A first. And if we try to fill in the table below, the first thing we want to do is find the coefficient of x squared. Now what we're looking for there is the coefficient of x squared positive or is it negative? Well, if you take a look at the graph for graph A, you'll notice that the parabola opens up. Because of that, we say that the coefficient of x squared is indeed positive. And for the sake of room, we're just going to put a positive sign right there. Now, the number of solutions. Well, it looks like this parabola crosses the x-axis once and twice. Because of that, we have 2 solutions. Now, the location of the solutions is the x value where the parabola crosses the x-axis. And so the solutions would be x equals 0 and x is equal to 2, because those are the 2 x values where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Now, the vertex is this point that's either the hill or the valley of the graph. And so all we need is the coordinates of this. That's what we mean by the location. And so it looks like the coordinates are 1, comma, -2. We need the parentheses because it is an ordered pair. Now, this vertex I've continued to circle because we're going to need it for the next 4 things. We see that this vertex represents a minimum. It's the lowest part of the graph. And so we're just going to abbreviate that M-I-N, minimum. I almost said minion. Minimum. Not to be confused with the movies. The axis of symmetry then is the line, and that line is always vertical, that goes through the vertex that causes one half of the parabola to be flipped over to create the other half. And so this axis of symmetry is an equation. It's the line x is equal to 1. Now that 1 looks familiar because it's the x value of the vertex, and that's always true. So I'm going to draw some arrows on the parabola now, and these arrows are going to represent what the y values are doing from left to right. So notice the parabola is going down, it's going down, it continues to go down until it gets to the vertex, at which time it goes right back up. So the arrows that represent the parabola going up is where the parabola is increasing. And so we can say that that happens when x is greater than 1. The y values are increasing. And when x is less than 1, the y values are decreasing or going down. Notice 1 was a pretty particular number in this example because, well, it's the x value of the vertex, and so we used it 3 more times. So let's look at the second example over to the side here. And let's do the same thing now. This parabola opens down, so its coefficient of x squared is going to be a negative number. But this parabola does not cross the x-axis. Our x-axis is right up here. That parabola stays away. So how many solutions do we have? 0. And where are they? Well, we're not going to write 0. We're going to write none. Where's the vertex? Well, the vertex is this place I'm going to circle right up here. And this vertex is going to be at the point 2, -1. Now this vertex happens to be a maximum value. Now the axis of symmetry, I'll run right through. There it goes. And this is the line x is equal to 2. Now on this one, the parabola is going up, stops for a moment in time, and then it goes back down. So where is the parabola increasing? Well, it's going up when x is less than 2, and going down when x is greater than 2. And so those are the characteristics of the parabola that we're looking for. So there's one item below that I'd like you to try, then I'll come back with the answers here momentarily. Alright, let's take a look at it. This parabola opens down, therefore we have a negative x squared. There are 2 solutions because the parabola crosses the x-axis twice. 2 solutions. The location of the solutions are -2 and 4. Those are the x values where the parabola crosses the x-axis. The location of the vertex is up here at 1, 9. The vertex is a maximum because it is the highest point on the graph. The axis of symmetry is x is equal to 1. The parabola is increasing when x is less than 1 and decreasing when x is greater than 1. And those are all the parts of a parabola. And the parabola, again, is the name of the graph of a quadratic function, x squared. See ya next time. Thanks.